How many hours of your life have you wasted mindlessly scrolling? Take 10 seconds and think about it. While you're procrastinating, scrolling through TikTok videos, someone else is reading the book you promised yourself you'd start. Someone else is waking up at 5 a.m. to go for a run while you hit snooze and go back to sleep. Someone else is building their dream business while you keep saying, "I'll start tomorrow." This isn't about guilt, it's about a brutal fact. You are trading your future for cheap dopamine. We are constantly bombarded with motivational videos, inspirational quotes, and speeches that promise to unlock a new version of ourselves. And for a moment, it works. You feel that surge of energy, that fire in your gut, and you think, "This is it." You swear to yourself that this time will be different. But 3 days later, you're back to your old habits like nothing ever changed. Why does this happen? Neuroscience has the answer. When you watch a motivational video or get excited about a new idea, your brain releases a dopamine spike, a neurotransmitter often linked to pleasure but actually responsible for motivation and the pursuit of rewards. That dopamine rush pushes you to take action in the moment, but soon it fades, and with it, your drive disappears. Motivation is like a matchstick. It ignites quickly, burns intensely, but goes out in seconds. And that's exactly why you can't rely on it. Motivation can get you started, but only discipline will keep you moving forward. Think about an elite athlete. Do you think they train every day because they always feel motivated? Of course not. They train because they've built a system that makes discipline inevitable. They don't wait to feel like it because they know that feeling is temporary. Instead, they rely on something far more powerful, the habit of discipline. And that's the real difference between those who keep growing and those who stay stuck. Some people learn to take action even when they don't feel like it, while others keep waiting for a push that never lasts long enough. If you want to know where you'll be a year from now, look at what you're doing today. Your health, your career, your relationships, your finances, all of it is shaped by the discipline you build or the lack of it. Self-control, the foundation of discipline. Most of the time, we already know what we need to do, we just don't do it. Why? Because the real battle isn't against laziness or a lack of motivation. The real struggle happens inside your own mind, between your craving for instant gratification and your ability to think long-term. And that's exactly why Stoicism teaches that the freest person is the one who has control over themselves. Self-control is the ability to resist immediate impulses in order to achieve something greater in the future. The Stoics saw self-control as mastery over your own mind. Seneca once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In other words, if your impulses control you, then you are not free. If you can't say no to a fleeting temptation, then you are a slave to your own desires. Stoicism teaches us that we can't control the outside world, but we can control how we respond to it. That means no matter how tempting immediate pleasure may be, there is always a space between impulse and action. And in that space, your freedom exists. The good news? Self-control can be trained. Self-control isn't something you either have or don't. It's a skill that can be strengthened with the right strategies. In 1970, psychologist Walter Mischel conducted a famous study at Stanford University, known as the marshmallow experiment. He placed children in a room with a marshmallow in front of them and gave them two choices. The first option was to eat the marshmallow immediately. The second was to wait a few minutes and receive 2 marshmallows as a reward. What he discovered was remarkable. The children who managed to wait, who exercised self-control and resisted temptation, grew up to be more successful in nearly every aspect of life. They earned higher grades in school. They built more stable relationships. They were healthier. They made more money over the course of their lives. In other words, the ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of future success. Now, think about your own life. How often do you trade what you truly want for a fleeting reward that, deep down, only pulls you further away from your goals? How many times have you opened Instagram just to check one story and lost an hour? How often have you told yourself you'd start your diet on Monday only to push it back again? If you don't train your self-control, you'll always be at the mercy of your impulses, and that's exactly what the Stoics warned against. Epictetus said that no person is free if they cannot say no to their desires. Marcus Aurelius reinforced this idea by asking, if you abandon reason and become a slave to your impulses, who can possibly help you? The real question isn't whether you feel the urge to procrastinate, to indulge in junk food, or to chase instant pleasure. The question is whether you let those impulses define your life. Now, let's break down why this battle between instant gratification and long-term reward happens in your brain. Your brain is made up of many different regions, but two of them are essential when it comes to self-control. The first is the limbic system, the emotional brain. This is the most primitive part of your brain. It reacts instantly to stimuli and seeks immediate pleasure. It's the part responsible for that uncontrollable urge to check your phone, eat something sweet, or put things off until later. The second is the prefrontal cortex, the rational brain. This is the most evolved part of your brain, responsible for planning and impulse control. It's the part that evaluates the consequences of your actions and helps you think long-term. The stronger your prefrontal cortex, the greater your self-control. The problem? The limbic system is fast and emotional, while the prefrontal cortex is slow and rational. That means that when you see a piece of candy, your limbic system screams, "Eat it now," while your prefrontal cortex tries to reason with you. This will take you further away from your goals. If you don't strengthen your self-control, the limbic system will always win. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from mastering yourself. And if you want to be a disciplined person, you need to strengthen your prefrontal cortex and reduce the influence of your limbic system. By creating habits that eliminate the need for decision-making, the less you have to think before taking action, the less power your limbic system has to sabotage you. By using your environment to your advantage, if you don't want to eat junk food, don't buy junk food. If you want to study more, keep your books within reach and your phone far away. By practicing delayed gratification, small acts of resistance, like waiting 5 minutes before checking your phone, help build self-control over time. Self-control isn't about deprivation, it's about freeing yourself from the impulses that pull you away from your goals. The Stoics didn't see discipline as a restriction, but as the only path to a life of purpose and greatness. Marcus Aurelius summed it up perfectly when he said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Control your mind, or it will control you." Now that you understand how self-control works in your brain and why it's essential for discipline, let's move on to the next step: how habits shape your behavior and make discipline feel effortless. If I asked you when was the last time you brushed your teeth, you probably wouldn't remember exactly. Not because you didn't do it, but because it's so automatic that you just do it without thinking. Now, imagine if every important action in your life felt as natural as brushing your teeth. Imagine if working out, studying, saving money, and eating healthy were as automatic as checking your phone in the morning or locking the door when you leave the house. That's the power of habits. Discipline isn't about fighting a never-ending battle against laziness. The real secret is making the right actions so automatic that you no longer need willpower to do them. You already have habits. The question is, are they working for you or against you? A lot of people think that habits are something you have to build from scratch. But the truth is, your brain already runs on habits all the time. The problem is that many of them are sabotaging you. You feel bored, so you reach for your phone without even thinking. You come home exhausted and turn on the television automatically. You get anxious and immediately reach for food. These are patterns you repeat without even realizing it. Habits exist to save mental energy. Your brain is always looking for ways to operate with the least amount of effort possible. That's why habits exist to automate your actions and save mental energy. Stoicism teaches that life isn't shaped by big, life-changing decisions, but by the small, daily actions you repeat without even realizing it. Epictetus once said, "First, we make our habits, then our habits make us." In other words, the habits you cultivate define the person you become. So ask yourself, Are you building habits that move you toward your goals, or are you being controlled by habits that pull you further away from them? Discipline creates habits, and habits eliminate the need for discipline. Discipline feels difficult at first because it requires conscious effort, but over time, repeated actions turn into habits, and you start doing them naturally without needing as much mental energy. Think about learning to drive a car. In the beginning, you have to focus on everything, checking the mirrors, shifting gears, and controlling the steering wheel. But after a while, you do it effortlessly. Habits work the same way. If you force yourself to wake up early for a few weeks, it becomes automatic. If you read a little every day, one day you'll realize you've become a reader without even trying. If you train consistently, there will come a time when skipping a workout feels unnatural. What was once a conscious effort becomes part of your identity. And that's why disciplined people don't seem to struggle to do what needs to be done. They just do it. The habit loop: how habits are formed. In Atomic Habits, James Clear explains that every habit follows a three-part cycle. First, the trigger. Second, the routine. Third, the reward. Take the habit of eating pancakes in the morning. Trigger: you wake up. Routine: you go to the kitchen and make pancakes. Reward: you smell them, eat them, and feel more awake. Now, apply this same framework to a habit you want to build. If you want to create the habit of working out, trigger: lay out your workout clothes the night before. Routine: put them on and exercise without overthinking it. Reward: the feeling of relief and satisfaction after your workout. If you want to break a bad habit, just make the trigger harder to access. If you want to stop wasting time on your phone, keep it out of reach. If you want to stop eating junk food, don't buy junk food. Habits don't rely on willpower, they rely on the right environment. And that brings us to the next point. Small changes, big results. A lot of people believe that change has to be massive to be meaningful. But in reality, small daily actions create a compounding effect that transforms your life. If you improve by just 1% every day, in a year, you'll be 37 times better than when you started. If you get 1% worse every day, in a year, you'll be almost at zero. The problem? In the short term, progress feels invisible. If you work out for one day, nothing changes. If you read one chapter of a book, nothing changes. If you save $10 today, it feels irrelevant. But over time, habits accumulate like compound interest, and suddenly, what once seemed insignificant becomes impossible to ignore. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. Marcus Aurelius put it simply: perfection of small things leads to perfection of great things. In other words, if you neglect the small habits, you'll never achieve big results. Now that you understand the power of habits in building discipline, the next piece is crucial: how your environment can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy, and how to make it work in your favor. Environment, the invisible force behind discipline. Imagine you're trying to eat healthier, but your kitchen is filled with chips, candy, and soda sitting in plain sight. Every time you open the fridge or pantry, those foods tempt you. Now, imagine the opposite. Your kitchen is organized, with fresh fruit on the counter, healthy snacks within reach, and water always nearby. Which scenario makes it easier to make better choices? Most people think discipline is just about willpower. But the truth is, your environment has a massive influence on your behavior, so much so that it can make discipline feel almost automatic or nearly impossible. Your environment decides before you do. Studies show that a huge percentage of our daily decisions aren't fully conscious. They're shaped by the environment around us. A famous experiment conducted in a hospital cafeteria demonstrated this principle clearly. By simply changing the placement of drinks, making water more visible and accessible, water consumption increased significantly, while soda consumption dropped. Nothing was banned, but the environment made the healthier choice easier. This happens because the brain is always looking for the path of least resistance. If something is closer, more visible, or more convenient, we're far more likely to choose it. How to shape your environment to make discipline inevitable. The good news? You can use this to your advantage. Small changes in your environment can eliminate the need for constant self-control and make good habits effortless. Here are a few ways to do this across different areas of life. Nutrition. If you want to eat healthier, set up your kitchen so that the best choices are the easiest ones. Keep fruits and nuts within reach while storing sweets and processed foods out of sight. Work or study. If you want to be more productive, remove distractions from your workspace. Keep your phone away from your desk, use website blockers, and create an organized space that promotes focus. Exercise. If you want to work out more, make access to training as simple as possible. Lay out your workout clothes the night before and choose a gym or workout location that's nearby to reduce excuses. The Stoic philosophy reinforces this concept by teaching us to take full responsibility for what is within our control. Your environment may seem external, but shaping it to support your goals is 100% in your hands. Instead of relying on willpower, which will eventually fail, design your environment so that the best choice is always the easiest one. After all, discipline isn't about fighting yourself every day. It's about creating conditions where success becomes inevitable. The art of self-control. Why Stoicism masters it. If there's one philosophy that perfectly embodies the art of self-discipline, it's Stoicism. The Stoics understood that true discipline isn't about constantly struggling against impulses. It's about training your mind to see what truly matters. They knew that while we can't control everything that happens around us, we can always control how we respond. And that's exactly what separates disciplined people from those who are constantly ruled by fleeting emotions and impulses. Discipline is the ability to choose long-term rewards, even when immediate desires scream for your attention. The dichotomy of control, the secret to unshakable focus. The dichotomy of control, the core of Stoic discipline. One of the most powerful principles in Stoicism is the dichotomy of control, which teaches us to separate everything in life into two categories. The first is what we can control: our actions, our choices, our efforts. The second is what we cannot control: other people's opinions, external events, unexpected obstacles. When we try to change what's outside our control, we waste energy and frustrate ourselves. But when we focus on what's within our power, we gain clarity, strength, and discipline. If you're putting off a project because you're afraid of what others might think, you're wasting energy on something beyond your control. So, what can you do? Simple: take action. Procrastination fades when you focus only on what's in your hands. Premeditatio malorum. Prepare for challenges before they arrive. Another powerful Stoic teaching is premeditatio malorum, which means anticipation of problems. Instead of waiting for difficulties to catch you off guard, the Stoics believed in preparing for them in advance. Need an example? If you're trying to stick to a healthy diet, don't wait until you're exhausted and out of time to realize you have no healthy food at home. Anticipate that situation and prepare ahead of time. If you want to train consistently, expect that there will be days when laziness creeps in, and have a plan to push through anyway. Accepting that obstacles will come and being ready for them is what keeps you from giving in to the impulse of the moment. How Stoicism crushes procrastination and impulsivity. Procrastination and impulsivity are enemies of self-control, but Stoicism gives us powerful tools to overcome them. Remember the shortness of life. Marcus Aurelius said, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Every wasted minute is a minute you'll never get back. Realizing this pushes you to act now, not later. Train discipline like a mental muscle. Epictetus taught that every time we resist a bad impulse, we strengthen our mind, just like training a muscle. The more often you beat procrastination, the more natural it becomes to take action without hesitation. Detach from the need to feel motivated. Seneca said, "Excellence comes from repetition, not from desire." In other words, don't wait to feel inspired, just take action. Stoic discipline. No tricks, no shortcuts, just control. Stoic discipline isn't built on quick hacks or gimmicks. It comes from a deep understanding that you have the power to decide who you will be every single day. In the end, the question is simple. Are you in control, or are you being controlled by your impulses? Discipline doesn't mean living a life of extreme restriction. It means building a system that makes the right choices easier. Think of it like paving a straight, smooth road toward your goals instead of struggling through a rocky, obstacle-filled path. The more structured your routine is, the less you have to rely on willpower. Here are some practical strategies to make discipline a natural part of your life. First, create smart rewards to reinforce good habits. Our brain is wired to seek rewards. If you associate a behavior with something positive, it becomes easier to repeat. The key is to create rewards that reinforce good habits without sabotaging your goals. A bad reward. I worked out all week, so I deserve to eat whatever I want this weekend. This can undo your progress. A smart reward. I worked out all week, so I'll treat myself to something that supports my growth, like a new book or a fun experience. Rewards don't have to be physical. They can be as simple as checking off a habit tracker or seeing your progress in an app. What matters is training your brain to recognize that effort is always worth it. Pre-commitment is a powerful way to avoid procrastination and impulsive decisions. It means making the right choices ahead of time before the moment of temptation even arrives. Some examples? If you want to work out in the morning, lay out your workout clothes the night before. That way, when you wake up, you're already prepared to take action. If you want to study more, set a fixed schedule and block distractions like your phone before you start. If you want to eat healthier, don't keep junk food at home. If it's not there, you don't have to resist it. The fewer bad options you have available, the easier it is to stay disciplined. Third, remove distractions and build a system for consistency. A lack of discipline is often not about weakness, it's about too many distractions. The environment you live in directly influences your decisions. If you're working on your computer and your phone is right next to you, buzzing with notifications, your focus will constantly be interrupted. But if you put your phone in another room or use website blockers, your productivity will naturally increase. The same principle applies to any habit. Want to read more? Keep a book in sight and cut back on screen time at night. Want to sleep better? Avoid artificial lights in your bedroom and create a relaxing nighttime routine. Struggling to start a task? Set a 5-minute timer and just begin without overthinking. The hardest part is always getting started. The impact of the people around you on your discipline? Have you ever noticed that when you spend time with someone who frequently uses a certain slang term, you start picking it up too? That's because we're social beings, wired to mirror our environment. And it's not just about language. Our habits, discipline, and even willpower are shaped by the people we surround ourselves with. The science behind social influence. A Harvard University study tracked thousands of people over 32 years and uncovered something fascinating. If your close friends gain weight, your chances of gaining weight increase by 57%. Why? Because habits are contagious, and this applies to everything: finances, productivity, discipline, and even happiness. When you're surrounded by disciplined, committed people who value growth, you naturally rise to that standard. But if your circle is full of procrastinators, complainers, or people who sabotage their own goals, guess what? You might find yourself slipping into the same patterns. Is your social circle pushing you forward or holding you back? Think about the 5 people you spend the most time with. Now, ask yourself, do their habits inspire you or distract you? Do they encourage your growth or mock your attempts to improve? Do they create an environment that supports your discipline or makes it harder for you to stay on track? If your answers aren't positive, it might be time to reassess the influence these people have on your life. How to build a social environment that strengthens your discipline. Surround yourself with growth-oriented people. Seek out those who share your goals and positive habits. If you want to read more, spend time with readers. If you want to start a business, connect with entrepreneurs. Be the positive influence. If you're surrounded by procrastinators, be the one who breaks the cycle. Often, one strong example is enough to inspire change in a group. Protect your discipline. You may not always be able to cut ties, but you can limit the time and influence of those who drain your energy. The right social environment doesn't just make discipline easier, it makes it inevitable. Relationships and discipline. Is your partner helping or holding you back? Relationships can either be a shortcut to success or an invisible barrier keeping you from evolving. The right partner makes discipline easier, more natural, and even enjoyable. But the wrong partner can unknowingly steer you away from your goals without you even realizing it. Why? Because we are deeply influenced by the person we spend our days with. The science behind relationship influence. Studies show that habits are contagious in relationships. If one partner adopts a more disciplined lifestyle, the other is likely to follow. But the opposite is also true. If one partner has poor habits, the other can easily be pulled into the same routine. A study from the University of Michigan found that people in long-term relationships tend to develop similar behavioral patterns, both in positive and negative habits. That means, without realizing it, your partner could be shaping your discipline or the lack of it. Relationships that strengthen your discipline. The right partner makes your goals easier to achieve, not harder. Here are a few signs your relationship is supporting your discipline. You motivate each other. Instead of discouraging, you help one another stay committed. You share healthy habits. Exercise, balanced eating, financial discipline. These things become easier when both partners are on the same page. You respect each other's routines and boundaries. If one of you needs to study or work, the other supports instead of distracting. When this happens, discipline stops being a solo effort and becomes part of the relationship's culture. Real example: couples who work out together are 76% more likely to maintain their exercise routine compared to those who train separately, according to a study in the Journal of Sports Medicine. In other words, when there's mutual support, discipline feels natural. When your relationship becomes an obstacle to discipline, not all relationships have a positive impact on discipline. Some red flags include: your partner downplays your goals. They frequently try to steer you away from your commitments with phrases like, "just this once won't hurt." Conflicting habits. You're focused on improving your productivity, but their routine constantly pulls you into distractions. Emotional dependence drains your focus. The relationship demands so much of your energy that you struggle to stay disciplined. This doesn't necessarily mean the relationship is bad, but it does mean you need to align expectations and habits to grow together. How to balance your relationship and discipline. If your partner is unintentionally making discipline harder, that doesn't mean you need to break up, but it does mean you should adjust your relationship dynamic. Here are 3 practical steps. Talk about your goals and habits. Explain what you're trying to change and why it matters to you. A partner who truly cares will want to support you. Create positive habits together. Whether it's working out, managing finances, or simply respecting each other's productive hours, build a routine that benefits both of you. Set healthy boundaries. A relationship should never be a barrier to individual growth. If your partner constantly dismisses your efforts, it might be time for a serious conversation about respect and mutual support. Final thoughts. The right partner amplifies your discipline, while the wrong one can drain it without you even noticing. Relationships aren't just about love, they're about growth. So, the final question is Is your relationship helping you become your best self or pulling you away from your goals? Make good choices easy and bad choices hard. Small, daily adjustments compound into massive results over time. Discipline isn't about extreme, overnight changes, it's about steady, continuous improvement. Author James Clear calls this the 1% rule. If you improve by just 1% every day, your results over a year will be exponential. Imagine two people starting a diet. One person cuts everything at once, struggling with restrictions. The other makes small, sustainable adjustments. Who is more likely to stick with it long term? The one who built a realistic and adaptable system. Apply this to any area of your life. Want to be more disciplined? Start with micro habits, like 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes of exercise, or simply making your bed. Want to boost productivity? Plan your day the night before so you wake up already knowing what to do. Want to eliminate a bad habit? Replace it with something positive instead of just trying to cut it out. The real secret to discipline. Discipline isn't about big displays of willpower, it's about small, consistent actions adding up over time. At the end of the day, the question is simple. Are you living on autopilot, or are you intentionally building the life you want one habit at a time? If there's one key takeaway from this, it's this. Discipline isn't a natural talent, it's a muscle you strengthen through practice. The more you train it, the easier it becomes to stay focused and make choices that align with your goals. What we've learned. Discipline isn't rigidity, it's strategy. It outperforms motivation because it doesn't rely on emotional highs. Self-control is everything. The marshmallow experiment proved that the ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of success. Habits eliminate the need for constant willpower. Small daily actions compound over time and shape your identity. Your environment influences your decisions. Adjust it so that good choices become effortless and bad choices become harder. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Focusing on what's within your control and mentally preparing for challenges strengthens your discipline. Action is what truly matters. It's not enough to simply understand the importance of discipline, you need to apply it. So now, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? You don't have to change everything at once. Pick one strategy and start right now. It could be something small, like adjusting your environment, setting a pre-commitment, or creating better rewards. What matters most is taking the first step and staying consistent. Now tell me in the comments, which of these strategies will you put into practice first? I want to know which one resonated most with you. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and if you found this video valuable, hit the like button. See you next time.